When it comes to building or otherwise kitting out our home studios, especially when it comes to preamps, we tend to stick with clones of the classics. Your Warm Audio 1073 clone, your Heritage Audio API clone, all of which tend to float for about £1,000 on the UK market, be very well made and sound killer. I think we may be missing out on a bit of a belter, and that is this. The Universal Audio 4710D. Now I got this one secondhand for less than I would have paid for a WA273 EQ, which is Warm Audio's kind of 2-channel Neve offering, except this has 4 channels. It has 1176 style compressors, independent for each channel. It has the ability to move between transistor circuitry and tube circuitry dynamically, independent for each channel. It has independent phantom power for each channel, independent inserts for each channel, and analog, and most importantly, in my opinion, digital I/O. You see, a lot of the time, in a home studio, we take our extensively researched, characterful and warm, toasty preamp, and then we run it directly into an input on our interface. This means 2 things. A, it's going straight into another preamp. Our interface is preamp, which messes with all of that lovely, warm, toasty character we were just talking about. And B, it's taking up a precious input on your interface. You can get around B with a patch bay, but still it's a thing. The 4710D has ADAT on the back, which means it can digitally go straight into your interface as long as your interface is ADAT compatible. And that means that A, it's not going into another preamp, so it's going to preserve all of those characteristics that you spent all of that time researching. And B, it's not taking up other inputs on your interface that already exist, it's just adding more. Even better, as ADAT can carry up to 8 signals and the 4710D only has 4 channels, there's actually 4 additional inputs on the rear of the 4710D that will allow you to connect other preamps that you may buy in future, up to 4 channels of extra preamp that you can buy in future that can use that same ADAT connection and carry it straight into your interface, making it not only a fantastic preamp in its own right, but also a fantastic centerpiece for your studio where you can build on it in future, you can add expansion, and it just hooks everything together. It's awesome. It's really, really cool. And not only is it all of those things, a fantastic preamp and a great studio kind of hub, but it's also almost a saturation box, kind of, in its own right. I love saturation, huge fan. And the ability to move between transistor and tube preamp circuitry and the ability to drive that really hard means I get 4 channels of just meanness if I want it. It's a great way to add character. So just to talk you through the front panel of the 4710D, you've got obviously your 4 channels there with their lovely sexy VU meters. You've got your digital out over here with the ability to clock and set your sample rate. So it goes from 44.1 all the way up to 92K. So you've got plenty of range to be playing with there. Each preamp has an input knob, an output knob down here to set your input and output gain, the ability on this knob in the center to move between transistor or tube circuitry, which is all perfectly and beautifully phased, the ability to open or close your insert down there, the ability to toggle your built-in compressor, 1176 style compression on all channels, from off to fast at the bottom or slow up the top there. I'll put that back to fast. Each channel has independent phantom power on the top here. The ability to change what the VU meter is monitoring between the output, the gain reduction of the compressor, or the amount of drive that's happening within the circuit. Each channel has a low cut for example, handy on overheads, taking things out on overheads that maybe aren't quite desirable before you slam it through a compressor. The ability to switch between mic level input and line level input, and your there's a 15 decibel pad up the front there as well if you're monitoring really loud sources such as drums and you're trying to avoid some compression or some distortion or something like that. On the back you will also find all of the kind of I/O that you would expect, all of your analog inputs and outputs, plus 2 ADAT ports and a few other goodies which I will pop on screen right now. I reckon we go through some conventional use cases, so let's hear it on kick. You can hear that compressor and that low cut doing their thing there. The low cut is a bit much for kick. You wouldn't want to use it on something like kick or bass, but there's obviously lots of other use cases for it. The compressor, again, that fixed ratio and fixed timing, the ability to toggle between the slow and the fast timings, really cool. I mean, it would be nice to have kind of a slightly finer control, but I appreciate the front panel is already really busy and there's really no need, to be honest. It's perfectly usable the way it's set as it is. Universal Audio, they know what they're doing. Let's try it again on snare. And lastly, for the drums, I've got overhead left and overhead right coming into channel 3 and 4. So we're going to play around with those a bit and get some. I really like the valve kind of tube style drive on overheads. I did go a bit extreme in the example just so you can hear it, but it is a lovely kind of subtle crunchy effect that I prefer getting out of the hardware over getting out of software, which doesn't really kind of have the same magic. Another thing that the 4710D sounds great on is bass, so let's get a little bit of that. It's a killer sounding pre. But if you're watching this channel for long enough, you'll know that we like it when things get a bit dirty, a bit filthy. This is my vintage Korg MS-20. It's a fantastic, wonderful vintage thing, and I love it. I was using it to make some kicks the other day on advice from Snakes of Russia, who I've been chatting with on Instagram. He's lovely, lovely, lovely bloke. But I needed something that was going to give it an extra kick and a bit of extra push. So I turned to the 4710D, and I thought I'd show you kind of what that sounds like and how the 4710D can work as kind of a saturation box rather than just a conventional preamp. It's just a really cool, authentic, analog, out-of-the-box way of adding some grit and some compression. I played with the compressor a bit there. I played with the input gain quite a lot there to really push the circuit and get it driving. And I switched between that transistor and tube preamp circuitry as well to hopefully... The flavors are pretty similar on some stuff and wildly different on others. It's really cool to kind of play around with that and see how they respond. I know it might not be the best option for a distortion box. I mean, the Culture Vulture and the Overstayer are both notoriously fantastic options for distortion boxes and saturation and all that, but they cost more than the 4710D, and the 4710D has 4 channels. For someone like me that loves distortion and saturation and general sonic memory, I'd think I'd actually pay what I paid just for 4 channels of real valve or real transistor distortion. It's so, so cool. Thank you so much for watching. If you did like this video, please do consider subscribing. Get down in the comments, let's have a chat. What did you think of the 4710D? I'd love to know your thoughts on it, and if you have any kind of differing opinions on where we can find good quality, really great sounding valve rack units that do this kind of distortion-y thing, or indeed, because this is Nevermore, pedals. Are there any really cool proper valve pedals that you think work really well on synth? Get in the comments and let's have a chat about it, because I love distorting things. Also, while we're here, Nevermore has a community forum. So if you want to join that and you want to get chatty, you want to find a load of like-minded sonic nerds, then get down in the description, because there's some good conversation going on and we would love to have you. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you next time.